Get the clicker working. Pause. There we go. Okay. What's the greatest piece of advice you've ever received? Where were you? When was it? And who gave it to you? For me, I was sitting on a bar stool in the middle of nowhere. It was December of 1999, and a 73-year-old former bricklayer by the name of James Bud Heiser gave me the advice. I'd recently graduated from the University of Colorado at Boulder, a little slice of heaven at the base of the Flatirons, if you've ever been there. I worked hard in college. I was a yes man, meaning I was open to new experiences, lots of new experiences. I also got really involved in student groups, did internships, got 2 degrees. Yet, when I was approaching graduation, I still did not know what I wanted to do with my life. But I knew one thing for sure. I was in search of the good life. And then I found it. My first job out of school was as sports director at KPNY Radio Powerhouse 102 in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. I was the play-by-play voice of the Western Nebraska Community College Cougars, both the men's and women's basketball teams. I know you've been following. On my off days, I would hike to the top of the Scottsbluff National Monument. I would look over the plains and I would ponder, what am I doing with my life? Which brings us back to Bud Heiser. He was the assistant coach for the Cougars. And on road trips, he, along with the head coach, Soupy Campbell, and our bus driver, Dale, can't make these things up, would invite me out for a drink, or as they called it, a snort, the night before the road games. One night, sitting on a bar stool next to Bud, I said, Bud, what's the secret to being happy in life? And without missing a beat, Bud said, Jordan, if I fell off this bar stool dead right now, I'd have no regrets. Because I've lived a life true to myself. Live a life true to yourself, and you can die happy. Years later, I would read a blog called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, written by a former hospice nurse. It's become a book. And sure enough, the #1 regret of the dying, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. You have to be careful of what others expect of you. My senior year of high school, I won one of these awards. Not most likely to have 10 kids or become president or become famous. No, I was voted most likely to go bald. But I didn't read it as most likely to go bald. I read it as most likely to go bold. And so I made a vow and a commitment to myself to show myself and others that being different was a good thing. So after my time in Scottsbluff, I moved to Denver, Colorado, my hometown, the Mile High City, and I worked in advertising. And although being a marketing and advertising consultant was interesting work, I wasn't fulfilled. So I made another move. I lived out another dream and moved to San Diego, California, ran a smoothie business, and learned how to surf. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by John Kabat-Zinn, and he says, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." After a year in San Diego, I moved up to San Francisco and worked on a sketch comedy television show with my 4 brothers. And although we never made it onto Comedy Central, we made a lot of memories. Also, while living in San Francisco, I met the woman I would eventually marry. But all along, I was still searching for my calling. And sometimes when you're searching for your calling, you need to go back to your childhood to look for clues. I was the middle child. It keeps moving quicker than I can speak. I apologize. I was the middle child of 5 boys. Now, being the middle child, I was always the counselor of the group. I also had to learn how to speak up if I wanted to get fed or be heard. Sometimes middle children can be overlooked. My parents, both teachers, encouraged us to express ourselves creatively. And one of the ways we did that was by creating make-it plates. If you're not familiar with a make-it plate, This is where you would draw a picture on a circular piece of paper, ship it off to a company, and a few months later, they send you your drawing made into a dinner plate. We did one of these every single year. As I looked back at a stack of my make-it plates, there were two themes. One, sports. Two, inspirational messages. Around the Colorado Rockies logo are inspirational messages. Be strong, never give in, have fun. And looking back at a lot of my make-it plates, I had inspirational messages peppered throughout. And I realized what I was drawn to do, what I was born to do, was to inspire others. And so, I came to grad school here at UCLA. Go Bruins. Started working at the Career Center, and now I'm entering my 15th year, inspiring others to reach their potential and fulfill their dreams. I recently found an essay I wrote in 6th grade. It was about my dreams. We were supposed to write about where we saw ourselves a couple decades later. I said I'd be living in Southern California, near the beach. I'd be married to the former Miss America champion, of course. We'd have 2 kids, and I'd drive a, quote, rockin' Ferrari. Well, minus the rockin' Ferrari. But as I think back about Bud Heiser's inspirational message to me, I think about the ripple effect of living his advice. And I think about how can I make the biggest impact on my sons, on UCLA students, on my colleagues, on the world for that matter. And I am continually reminded that it is by my example. And I think all of us here in Student Affairs, this message is loud and clear. We have an excellent opportunity to re-examine the example we are setting, to recommit to living a life true to ourselves. If we do both of those things, I am convinced that not only will we continue to make a tremendously positive impact on the world, we will also be able to live and die with no regrets. Thank you very much.